Do this in Season 1. How many times have we watched a video like this already? Well, here it is, Marcellian giving us an interesting video here on things to do in Season 1. I think he's giving us some other takes, I should say, on different things that we could be doing to gear out. Let's see what Marcellian has to say.
Delves, dungeons, raids, crafting, so many things to do now that the season has started, but what to start with and which one is the best one to do overall? Welcome to Season 1 and this is what you gotta do. The content that we have available isn't fully out all at once, so we will talk about each week in particular with some tips on how to be more efficient. First of all, in week 1, almost everything is out except Mythic Raid and Mythic Plus. The first week of the season is the 619 eye level week, since that will be the max you can achieve on individual items, or at least this will be your goal to chase.
I've already seen people, mind you, we didn't get our vaults yet. I've already seen people pushing really high, like getting into the 600s, which is pretty wild, man. Wild players, degenerates, what can I say?
First and likely the activity that will eat most of your time will be delves. This week all the delves will be unlocked, and what you want is to get to tier 8 delves as fast as possible, since they will contribute to your weekly vault, and tier 8 delves will give you hero track gear in week 2.
Yeah,
and since this
they'll give you really good vault gear. I mean, he's got it right here, 610 to 626. That's a beastly. And by that he means I think it's going to give you 610, and you can upgrade it to 626 if you do a tier 8. But that's great. And the thing is, right now delves are fully unlocked. You can go all the way, while Mythic Plus hasn't really unlocked yet. So this week in particular, this first week, yeah, doing delves is pretty important. And delves just got nerfed because people were bitching so much. Yeah, they got nerfed, so you might be able to do it a little bit easier than you've done it previously.
Vault we are talking about, you have a chance of some of those options
616?
to be actual tier pieces. Your tier set will normally be the biggest upgrade you can chase, although not for every spec it seems. The tuning of the set bonuses right now is a bit wonky, where for some specs it can even be a DPS loss. Since tuning might even happen by the time we publish this video, and again by the time you watch it, there's no real point in talking about these numbers, but tuning will happen because they're not gonna let tier bonuses
it happened this morning. I'm talking to you guys on Friday here. It already happened. They get nerfed damage by 20% for spells. So the regular hits are going to happen. But yeah, there's a 20% reduction. And there is a reduction in damage for groups as well, but an increase in health because Blizzard felt like some of these pulls were happening too quickly. So yeah, they're already rebalancing delves.
Damage losses, but we recommend checking with your class discords on how big the upgrade is if you want to chase it. For the purpose of the video, we will assume the set bonuses will be as intended, the biggest upgrade possible you can get, likely eventually once all of the tuning...
Yeah, they made it harder a little bit harder for groups, but it's easier solo. The changes do make it easier for solo. The reason why Blizzard did these changes is they wanted to rebalance things because they feel like right now it is significantly harder to solo a delve than to do a delve with a group, and that was unintentional. They said they wanted it to somewhat be the same.
Has happened. And to round it up on the delves, hopefully you saved up your restored coffer key for the bountiful delves. You want to steadily unlock the tier 8 delves by completing delves with the revives remaining, and once you can do the delve at tier 8, make sure you use your keys at the end for the bountiful chest, since it will reward 603 item level champion gear.
Nice.
Outside heroic raid, this will be the best gear you can loot, since you can bring it to 619 item level with your proper upgrades. Delves will also reward you with crests, particularly the rune crests in tier 8 that will work towards getting your gear to 619. You get very few crests per run, but it is a source you can farm as a solo player. With the start of the season, the 13th delve will also be available, and this is the hardest one. Nobody was able to test it on the beta yet to tell you what's what, but what you might want to know is that here is where you get to make your dirigible mount all voidy.
Yeah, that's
Plus,
right.
we'll likely get all sorts of...
You got to complete him on his maximum difficulty, which is known as the double question mark difficulty to get this thing. And I don't know if anyone's done that yet. It's considered to be very hard. The single question mark difficulty is recommended at item level 600 to do him. And the double question mark, as we read earlier, is just titled to be unfathomably hard. So there is no recommended item level for that one. I don't think anybody has this yet.
Achievements from it. The delve is in Ashkahet, right here in the bottom left part of the map. First week will also bring out the World Boss, which drops Champion Track gear. It will start at 603 item level, but once again can be upgraded to 619. Just like how we were upgrading our content with our second channel, haha. We have a weekly pod.
Oh, nice. They have a second channel. Okay. I was saying right here, drops gear 603. I wanted to move my little thing. Okay.
But once again can be upgraded to 619.
That's nice. So these are for the world boss. Yeah, of course. Do the world boss. Yeah, it's a big one.
We have a weekly podcast that we stream every Thursday on twitch.tv/MarcellianOnline.
Yeah,
and
there it is.
out of it, we make clips and videos about talking points we went over. It's a more unfiltered version.
I did the world boss this week. I didn't get shit out of it. Yeah, I mean, it's a loot luck, of course.
Marcellian Online with Marcellian himself and yours truly. So if you are curious, head on over and check our content out. It's a small channel, but we're getting there. Next up should be your crafting choices, and here you need to be careful. First of all, if you didn't use your crafting spark, this week you will be able to get your second one, so essentially you can craft 2 pieces.
There you go.
We still don't know if the embellishments will receive any tuning similar to tier sets, since right now the bonuses they give is super tiny. If you are already set on one though, make sure whatever it is you craft is not in a tier piece slot unless your class guides tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. I think for most classes, it looks like bracers are biz from crafting. There's a few others maybe that are different, but yeah, definitely crafting bracers. Crafting some weapons could be really good as far as, especially gearing out right now goes. Weapons are always a big boon to your DPS, of course. And don't craft into your slots, as he said. That's probably the best thing to avoid right now, especially the raid has just opened up and you might fill those slots with tier. Or you can use the, what's it called? The console or whatever the hell to convert shit to tier.
But if you do manage to craft 2 pieces, you can get them to 619 item level this week with the enchanted runed Harbinger crest, provided your crafter can max out the eye level on the craft. That also means that you will be using the limited crests that you already have for this. The cap we started with for the other crests was 180 and it increased by 90 per week. It's likely the runed crests will follow a similar pattern, but if they start at a cap of 90 and crafting an item eats 45 of them, you can get 2 max and then you have no crests left over. So keep your eyes peeled. If you don't have a group of friends or a guild to raid and do dungeons with, you will likely want to get the Renown rewards for some easy epics and idol levels if you have been keeping up with your dailies and story quests. First of all, you can get veteran pieces if you haven't already, which come very quickly and can be upgraded to 606 item level pretty easily. Dornagal Rep gives you a shoulder piece at level 7, the Assembly of the Deeps rewards you with a helmet at Renown level 8, and Hallowfall has at Renown 7 a chest.
So if you're starting to hit Renown 7 and 8 or beyond that, you should probably go back and look at some of these vendors, the Renown vendors, because I didn't even realize how high this gear is. How high did he say it is? What is it, 584 veteran? Oh, okay, wow. So yeah, that can be upgraded to the 600s pretty easily. That's pretty nice.
A chest piece. There's a funky trinket you can get from the severed threads at Renown 11, but it seems it's bugged right now and deals less damage than it should. If it gets fixed, it can be an easy item level source as well. The second tier reward will be for champion gear, and this is unlocked at Renown 16 for Dornagal, 18 for Hallowfall, and 19 for the Assembly and Severed Threads. These items will be 697 item level champion pieces that can be brought again all the way up to 619 with enough resources and valor stones. Ideally, if you plan on heroic raiding or even normal raiding, you might want to hold off on upgrading these items since resources will be limited. The only reason you would ignore this is if you want to just be able to pug content and you are worried people will invite better geared players over you. A content you can spam this week actually will be the normal Mythic dungeons.
I actually haven't done a single Mythic dungeon yet this week, which is pretty... maybe I'll do some today. But we've been raiding. I still think raiding is always a great way to get gear. It's usually the best. So we've been raiding a lot, and then you do delves on the side because delves are so spammable and quick right now, and you can max them out. And that's what people have been doing a lot of. I actually feel like Mythics is the least done content right now.
They will only reward you with veteran gear, which goes to 606 item level only, but the Mythic dungeons will have a daily lockout this time instead of a weekly
I meant
one.
off-stream.
So yeah, you can do them every day. Don't forget that in the first week, the catalyst will be available with 1 charge to be used.
That's right.
You want to ideally save this charge 100% of the time for the next reset. Why?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, but don't use it yet, guys. Wait until you get your damn vault gear, and then figure out what you should use it on. Because you're gonna feel really bad if you turn your shoulders into tier, and then you get shoulders tier in the vault. You're gonna want to save it so that way you can create your your set bonuses too.
During this week, you will raid and likely loot some tier pieces. Once the reset comes, you might get another tier piece in your vault, so you can save this catalyst for whatever it is missing. Otherwise, you can risk catalyzing a quick tier piece, and the next raid boss you kill will drop the same piece you already catalyzed, because that's how it always happens to me. You can opt to ignore this if the catalyst can give you a quick 2-piece or a turbo lucky 4-piece, and your tier set is a massive upgrade that can carry your guild through heroic or something like that. Alternatively, what we recommend you do is only use the catalyst on the item type you will be doing the endgame at. For most endgame players, that will
for me, basically what I use it on is if whatever I get in the vault, obviously I won't use it there. But if I'm looking at what to use it on, look at which tier pieces drop from the later bosses in the raid, because typically you're going to do those less often, right? You're going to have a better group to get further into the raid and get those bosses killed. So the first one that I'll usually do, if I didn't get it obviously from the vault or from the raid, is I will upgrade, say like shoulders drop from the second to last boss. I'm more likely to do that one rather than the pants, who maybe drop from the third boss in the raid. Just because you're less likely to get deep into the raid every week, until at least you start clearing it regularly.
Be hero track
Little
items.
Sam tip there.
If you want to
Just
push keys, push heroic, or even push mythic rating, item level upgrades early on are really important, and the catalyst can make you get a full tier set at hero track or higher way faster. This is something to keep in mind since the second catalyst charge will only happen 2 weeks later. Speaking of looting tier pieces, the first wing of LFR will open as well, and as far as beta testing is concerned, the wing should have the first 3 bosses. This is important because the third boss can drop a tier token. Obviously, you have to be lucky to get it, but that's true with...
So you see this? It drops hands, right? So it drops gloves. So gloves would be one of the last things. This third boss drops gloves. It would be one of the last things that I do. One of the last things that I use my catalyst for would be gloves, because I just know that I'm most likely going to kill this third boss every week.
Everything, really. Ideally, you want to hop into LFR quick and pray to the gods above and below that it drops. For chill players, this can just make your 4 set happen faster. For guild raiders, this can go towards another raider getting a token that you would normally get that you just replace with an LFR token. For tier pieces, usually the eye level isn't as important as the actual set being complete, so getting the LFR version is not a downgrade. Usually. But like I said earlier, the set bonuses this season are incredibly undertuned for some specs, where a higher item level piece might actually be better. I don't know if that applies to you. You will have to figure it out with the class community that you are a part of. And lastly, the real raid will open with normal and heroic. The normal raid will drop 583 champion gear that can be taken to 606 item level if you just farm normal content, or 619 if you loot the crest from more challenging content. Yes, the gearing is all over the place. Welcome to World of Warcraft. Heroic will drop hero track gear that can eventually reach 626 item level. You cannot get it that high no matter what you do this week, since the upgrade crest required for that will only drop the following one. And speaking of...
Just imagine. Imagine somebody's angry about not being able to push that. What he means is you can't get these crests yet unless you're doing Mythic Raid or you're getting it from your vault, neither of which are open yet. So that's why you can't push past 619.
The following one. And speaking of, let's hop into week 2, the 639 item level week, the highest item level gear in the game that you may or may not be able to acquire. We still recommend you farm tier 8 delves if you want to maximize your future vaults, or at least until you are full hero track and you want to swap your items to myth track. But likely
the good thing about farming these delves too is you can you're getting, obviously you can get what's it called, end of delve loot, which won't be that same heroic level raid gear, but still replace some gear probably for you. And then obviously you're going to fill your vault slots, so why not give yourself more chances to fill up the vault to get more gear.
not
Give you
this week
choices.
or even the next one. Since now you can farm the gilded crests, you can start looking into crafting 636 item level pieces. Sure, it won't go as high as 639 item level, which is the seasonal max, but if it's a key item that can only be replaced by a 639 item level gear, it's probably a good choice to go for, since it's gonna take a while for you to get to that particular eye level. You would only have 1/2 of a spark extra this week, so by crafting, I mean recrafting last week's 619 if you did so. And the same disclaimer applies, crests are limited. Only do it if you know what you're doing. Side note, this week the new story mode for the raid will be available, of which we know very little. But what we do know is that the mode...
I don't think it's going to give really good loot. That story mode's really what it's called. It's just for completing the story.
What is made for people to discover the conclusion of the story for
it's not
War
made
Within
for gearing
for the
out.
first season, of course, without needing other people to do the raid. You can still have friends in if you wish and fill in with NPCs up to the total allowed of 10 people. The mode is for chill story enjoyers that I will definitely try out as well, since the story and vibe of this expansion has been incredible for us. As for the rewards or what bosses you will do, we don't know anything at the moment. We just know that Ansarek is going to be the obvious goal, so have fun. LFR will open with the second wing this week, and it's a big one. All 3 bosses that will be present will drop a tiered token, so if you are still missing a piece or just starting out your gearing journey, definitely don't skip on this wing. Of course, Mythic Nerebar Palace will be available now with the best gear in the game, period. At least at level 1.
As it should be. As it should be. Some people bitch about Mythic Raid having gear that's too good. What are you talking about? This is the hardest freaking content in the game. It's like complaining that you don't get the gladiator's mount just from a vendor or something. Like, I think there should be rewards for completing the hardest shit in the game. For being the sweatiest degenerate that you can possibly be. I want to know who those people are. I want to congratulate them on their achievements. And the way you do that is by giving them the best shit. And Mythic Raid should have the best shit.
Since the range will be from 623 all the way to 639 item level for the ultra rare items that can drop in the end. And let's not forget that Mythic Plus will finally be available with a whole new roundup of dungeons.
This is what everyone's going to do.
The pool will include the Stone Vault, City of Threads, Arakara, and the Dawnbreaker from the current expansion, with 4 old dungeons making a return. Mists of Tyrna's Scythe, Necrotic Wake, Siege of Borealis, and Grim Batol.
Yeah, and really for most WoW players, that's what this week's going to be all about. Week 2 is going to be about kicking off Mythic Plus. It's going to be about getting deep into them and obviously filling out your vault slots and getting gear, right? You're still going to be getting a lot of gear from these things because right now our item levels are lower. So it's not just even about the vault. You're going to be getting stuff from end of the runs.
With the M+ dungeons being open, we once again will be able to farm gear that ranges from 697 champion track to 613 hero track, from +2 and +10 respectively, with the vault going all the way to 623 myth track for the +10 keys completed. That 623, however, will be myth 1 out of 6 upgrade levels, meaning you will need to spend a fair bit of crests to get it to 639 item level, which will be the max. One other note are the affixes. For those of you who haven't kept up with the beta, all the affixes you knew about M+ will be going away with the exception of Fortified and Tyrannical. The new Mythic Plus system will have a new rotating affix starting with +2.
I have to say, this season's affixes, obviously I haven't played through them yet, but Blizzard finally went with the Kiss Curse mechanics again.
Let us lay waste to this realm.
Main Druid, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. Yeah, they went back with the Kiss Curse, so there are going to be affixes, different ones, some with orbs that pop up that you gotta, interrupt, or some with things you gotta dodge or mobs you gotta kill. But the cool thing is that when you do the affix, right, you're going to get a buff. The entire group will get a buff, and you'll be able to, use that buff to DPS things harder, which is good, because when you give people an incentive to do them, people will stop parsing like jerks and actually do them. That's always a good thing. So I'm actually excited to play through these, and I think we're going to enjoy these affixes more than we have the most recent ones.
That's Xalatath's Bargain. Won't go into details here, but this is a Kiss Curse affix where if you play it properly, you get a buff from it to smash the dungeons. On +4 and onwards, you'll get either Fortified or Tyrannical rotating every week, just like you knew from before. Plus 7 will come with Challenger's Peril, an affix that will make deaths count as a 15 seconds penalty to the timer, up from the previous 5 seconds, making correct play even more desired now. Plus 10s will add Tyrannical or Fortified, whichever one was not on the plus 4 key. So essentially, from 10s and up, you will have both Tyrannical and Fortified all the time. Then starting with plus 12s, Xal'atath's Bargain will be replaced with her Guile, that just boosts the health and damage of mobs and bosses by 20% with no potential buff to the player, making the high keys consistent between weeks and eliminating the concept of push weeks.
Yeah, that's great. And by the way, I think that's fine. Plus 12 anyways. You're only doing that to just be an insane, you know, sweaty boy pushing your IO up. Anything beyond plus 10 isn't upgrading your gear. So yeah, why not make sure that they scale properly? I think that was a good move.
Third week of the season will bring you the third spark for your crafting needs and the second charge of the catalyst, which by this point you'll likely use it to get your last tier piece if you have been raiding every week so far. The last LFR wing will open up with likely the last 2 bosses, second to last giving you a tier token, while Ansurek dropping the Omni token, which can be redeemed for the tier piece still missing.
Nice.
Not to mention that Ansurek will also drop the raid mount on LFR as well as the other difficulties, so this is another reason to not skip this wing. And lastly, as a little bit of a bonus, if you plan on just farming Mythic Plus for the rest of the season, here are 3 key levels you might be interested in as the most efficient ones to go for. If you play WoW casually and don't want to stress it too much, doing plus 2 is just fine. Here you will loot 597 Atom level champion gear, which you can eventually take to 606 Atom level with the crests you loot in
these get good, bro. Plus 2, are you see? Come on.
Dungeons. If you like Mythic Plus, but you are not an endgame pusher, just chill in plus 2, and your champion gear will be good enough to clear anything in the game, especially delves. And if you ever want to go higher, the Atom level you get here should set you up for better and better content. Next up will be plus 7 keys, which are what you want to farm hero track gear and the runed crests to upgrade that gear to 619, or craft those items at that level. If 7 is too high for you, plus 4 is less efficient, but will still reward hero track gear in your vault, and the dungeons themselves will still drop ruined crests to eventually upgrade that gear to 619.
Yeah, the truth is you don't have to push delves that deep, or sorry, you don't have to push Mythic Plus that deep to get gear that's comparable to raid gear. So I mean, if you really, you don't have to be insane and be pushing 10s every single week. You know, that there's that pressure in game always to do that stuff, but in reality, you don't have to. If you're just confident, you're just happy to try to chase down like AOTC or something, yeah, doing this level of keys is just fine. And no, I have not done delves, but I have done delves, okay? I've done them, just not yet this season. And obviously, I'm constantly keeping up on WoW news, so yes, I understand things, even if I haven't run them yet. Jesus, chat is so toxic today.
Will be slower, but way easier than doing plus 7s. And lastly, of course, will be plus 10s, as the only way to get Mythic track gear outside Mythic Raid, and of course, only in the weekly vault. You can, however, start farming the Gilded Crest from plus 9 and avoid the second weekly affix, but you will not be getting any Myth track gear that way. So plus 2, plus 7s, and plus 10s are what we consider the most efficient keys for the most amount of rewards with the least amount of effort based on every player's skill level. And all of this is well and good, but you can definitely farm Season 1 with better add-ons. Your boys have you covered in our add-ons video right here, and trust me, it will be worth your time for at least one add-on I bet will make your game better that you didn't know about.
That's actually a pretty interesting video. Yeah, this was nice. A nice breakdown week by week, you know, of how we're going to be gearing out. Obviously, week 2 and week 3 are going to have slight differences. The big difference is really next week. Next week really truly kicks off the full-fledged Mythic Plus season, Mythic Raid, everything else. That's where the real sweaty boy content comes into effect. So it's a good, nice breakdown video here from Marcellian.